Okay, so in part 9 what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that we can actually save an image that we've edited to our computer, because it's not a very fun app if you can only apply effects but you can't save your work. So you want to make sure that you have your project open in the browser, you have your script, index, and styles files open, and I also have the checklist open, which is always good to do too. So the first thing that we want to do, we want to make sure that we are not writing code below this closing line. And we are going to actually make a variable that gets our save button. If you go to the index file, you can see that our save button right here, it has an ID equal to save, and we're going to be able to get this button using document.getElementById. So let's do that. So we'll say var save button equals document.getElementById. The ID is save, and then we need a semicolon. Control S or Command S to save. You can name this variable something different, but when you use it later on, when we actually call or have an event listening to see if we've clicked, you need to make sure you spell it the same. Okay, so after we've done that, we're going to write our function that actually will apply or use the K-mean methods to save the image. So we're going to name this function save button handler, and we're going to pass it the parameter of event. So we'll start out by saying function save button handler parentheses event. So event is our parameter. Opening curly bracket, closing curly bracket. Now we're gonna have a function, two functions inside of this function. So I want to go ahead and hit enter, and then I'm going to add my closing semicolon. So the next couple of lines we're going to write inside of this function that will actually define what save button handler does. I'm going to tab in so it's easier to read. We're going to call the K-mean method on our pound image, comma, function, empty parentheses, opening curly, closing curly, closing parenthesis. I'm going to add a semicolon at the end. So now you're going to see I have these two sets of closing brackets. We're actually going to apply some things inside of this K-mean method. So I'm going to hit tab. This dot render function, and then we're going to say opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, opening curly, closing curly, closing parenthesis, closing semicolon. Alright, so these are my three closing sets of brackets. The next thing we'll say is this dot save, and then we're going to save this as image.png, closing parenthesis, closing semicolon. Okay, and this is going to be our function that actually saves the image that we've edited in our editor. Go ahead and save your changes. Now outside of these brackets, but before our closing line, we actually want to call this function when we click on the save button. So we can do that using our saying save button dot on click equals save button handler. We're going to call that function semicolon. Command S. This is very similar to our reset button in terms of the general flow. So we're going to check to see when it's clicked, and when it's clicked we're going to call our function for resetting or saving. Okay, let's go ahead and refresh our page and test out what we just wrote. Don't forget you need to choose a new image. Alright, and then you can go ahead and apply a filter, maybe adjust a couple of other things. Alright, and when you feel like you have something good, you press the save button. And then when it saves, what it does is it actually pops it up into its own window. It is a PNG. You can right click on this and press save image as. I'm going to save it to my desktop. And then we can actually go see what this looks like. And you can see that my PNG that's edited saved. So originally this is what my pug looked like. but this is what it looked like after my edits. And that is going to be part 9.